All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Strip Club.
Good morning.
Well, we are filming from Cozy Creative Center in El Cajon, California, and I am here to present you with the new Strip Club quilt. It is called Stars Within. Do you like it?
Yes.
This pattern is a new technique for us, so you need to pay attention. It's fun, it's easy, and it creates a different effect. Normally, we use a lot of straight piecing. Today, we're going to show you what I call non-paper paper piecing. Don't be frightened. It's all going to end up okay. So first, let me tell you a little about the quilt. There is a main block. Do you see the main block?
Yes.
And then there are sashing segments. Do you see the sashing segments?
Yes.
Let me show you the main block and the sashing segments. Do you like my star, my wand? So here's the main block. Wait, here it is. It's a star. And we're going to use the tube technique to create the star. Do you see it? Now we have sashing segments. Now the sashing segment is here. It goes between each of the blocks and then between the cornerstones. This sashing segment has very sharp points, and those points we will use the non-paper paper piecing technique. So first let's make the star, shall we? The first thing you need is a strip tube ruler. If you don't have a strip tube ruler, go out and get one. I mean, come on, they're fabulous. We have plenty of patterns that use the strip tube ruler, so it's not like it's I'm going to use it once and then I'm going to throw it away, or I'm just going to see it collect dust and feel bad that I made that purchase. Not this one. We actually are going to use Junior because he's best for the smaller sizes. Oh, let me back up for a bit. I'll tell you about the elements in the quilt that do not come from your 2.5-inch strips. So in addition to a bundle of 2.5-inch strips, you will need background fabric. We use the background fabric in the block. So it's the background that creates the stars. You need sashing fabric. Sashing fabric will be behind the very sharp star points. In this quilt, the background and the sashing are the same color, but they do not have to be. You will need cornerstone fabric. Cornerstones sit between the sashing. You will need small cornerstone fabric. Oh, actually, we use the same fabric. Here's, small setting triangle. And then you will need large setting triangle fabric. So in addition to strips, there are 4 additional fabrics you may use. They can be, or that you need to use. They can be different, or they can all be the same. There's so many different ways you can play with the combination of fabrics to get completely different effects. So it's a lot of fun in that regard. Lots of different looks from the same pattern. All right, so first we start with 2.5-inch strips. And now we have a background fabric. We have taken one strip, sewn it on top of another strip to create a strip set by sewing a 1/4-inch seam along the top and a 1/4-inch seam down the bottom to make a tube. I talked about our strip tube ruler. I'm going to talk about Junior. Here I have Junior. Junior is the same as Senior, only smaller, so he makes smaller cuts. In this case, we want the smaller cuts because we only want to cut this big, which is small. We're going to put the diagonal stitching line on the diagonal line. We're going to put the horizontal line on the bottom stitching line to cut up and cut down to cut out a triangle. Now, if you guys know us, you know you play a role in this, right? Okay, let's do it once. Let's do it with pop. Are we ready? Triangle on the bottom stitching line, cut up and cut down to cut out a triangle that looks like this. We take the triangle, we open it up to reveal our diagonally pieced square.
Brilliant.
All right, that was okay. That's good for today. Okay, so now we have essentially a half-square triangle block. It's a diagonal seam down the middle, which is cut from the strip set. The next time we cut, same technique, only we'll cut off of the top stitching line. The $10 tip, if you've been around, you'll know what the $10 tip is already. Nobody has yet to give me $10, I just want to say. The first cut you make will have been like this. You'll have a diagonal cut out of your strip set like that. I will tell you to cut off the top stitching line, but this is a bit of an awkward cut. So instead, we're going to move the top stitching line to the bottom simply by flipping over the strip set. And now you're going to cut out another triangle. From these strip sets, they'll all be the same because you only have 2 fabric, a dark and a light. So your strip and then your background. They'll all look the same like this. You make a bunch of those. Keep them in sets of 8. and then we're going to collect one set of 8, and we're going to break up another set and collect 4. So we need one set of 8 of one color, a set of 4 of another color, and then some background fabrics to put our blocks together. You want to see how the block comes together? So here's color 1 and color 2. We also have background squares that go in the corners. Are you with me? You seeing how this is going to come together? Here we have row 2. Again. Well, now we go to color 2. The anticipation. It's mesmerizing. Notice, one of the colors will be more prominent than the other color. So it's a matter of twisting and turning to get the effect. So one color will create a larger star, almost a pinwheel, and then there'll be a secondary with the 4 points that will create the entire star. So that's the first block, or that's the main block. Do you see it? Okay, you're going to sew them together by rows, and then sew your rows together to get your block. Here's an example of one sewn together by the magic of television. So you make a bunch of those. And now we're going to do the sashing. So the first thing you do don't worry, I'll rearrange them later. The first thing you do is go into your pattern and you cut out this template piece. This is what the template looks like. You will have already cut out your sashing segments. This template is the same width and height as your sashing. You will place this template piece on your sashing. Here is the back of your sashing fabric. Template piece, sashing. Line up the bottom and the sides, and you will use this template to draw lines on the back of your fabric. Now our lines are heavy and thick with a ballpoint pen so that you can see them. You want to draw fainter lines. Here's a little tip. When you draw the line, just use the template to create a notch here and a notch there, and then use a ruler to draw the line. You don't want to have to rely on this piece of paper or this cardstock to be your ruler. So use an actual ruler, draw the line. 1 and 2. Flip it around. Actually, flip this around. Same concept. Again, line up the bottom. Draw and draw. Okay, so now you have 4 lines drawn on the back of your sashing. The next step is the same concept as paper piecing. Now, if you've already rolled your eyes because you've tried paper piecing and you can't think like that, don't give up on this one. Just follow the pictures that are in the pattern. This is what you need to do. You will take one strip, place it right sides together. The back is still showing, so the right sides will be together behind the sashing segment. Align it so it's roughly center. The segment behind it, the pattern tells you what size to cut your strip segments to. So it's roughly centered, and that there's about a 1/4 inch of fabric hanging over from where the line is. Use the picture. Orient based on the picture. Good pictures. You can follow. So do you see how, you may not be able to see, but from here I can tell that there's about a 1/4 inch of fabric hanging over the edge. Okay? Stitch on the drawn line. Now the easiest thing to do is to then repeat with the other corner. Now I have another strip segment. Make sure your right sides are together. We are showing batiks here, and we use batiks. Batiks don't have a right and a wrong side, but if you're not using batik fabrics, you want to make sure that they are the right and the wrong, the right and the right together. So again, on this side, there's about a 1/4 inch hanging down. Actually, you'll want to flip this around like this and always work off of the same corner. So we have 2 opposite sides done. Are you with me so far? Okay. Now we're going to flip this over right sides. Flip the segments over, and you'll see they cover the edge. Okay? So now we are going to do the other 4 corners. So we've done 2, and now we're going to do the other 2. Stitch the lines to create this. Okay? So we've done 4 corners. The easiest thing to do is to do these 2 corners, or 2 corners, opposite corners first, press them out, come back, flip it over, do the other 2 corners, and press those out. Now the next step, I'm sure you figured out, we're simply going to trim up the sashing segment so that it is back to the original size. Once you flip this over, you will have your finished sashing. Nice, right? You can do it. Anybody who is scared of paper piecing should not do this. Should not do this. That's right. That's right. Should not do this. So this is your sashing. Here, I'll show it to you in the quilt. In fact, I'll show you each of them in the quilt. Clearly, we have used different background fabrics than the quilt that we have here up on the wall. That way, also, we can see, have a little difference of, yeah. I knew that was going to happen. So here is the sashing. And here's the block. When you sew the 2 together, you will eat up 1/4 of an inch of the edges, as we always do with blocks. So when we have, here's a sashing segment. So when you see the sashing segment, you won't have points that touch here. You'll sew those off. So you don't have to worry about these overlapping. It also means it's a little forgiving. It doesn't have to be exact. We're not matching it up against anything. So here's our sashing. There's our main block. The quilt is set on point. That means we have to sew it a little differently. So everybody needs to look at the quilt, tilt their head, and we will sew it together by diagonal rows. The pattern will actually show the quilt angled so that they are not diagonal rows, they are just main rows. The first row is a small triangle. We call it a small setting triangle. And then it's a sashing segment, and then a small setting triangle. That is 1 row. Notice I skipped this triangle. These are corner triangles, and they will go on last. The next row is a large setting triangle, a vertical sashing, a block, a vertical sashing, and ends with a large triangle. So these will go together by rows. So you start with a sashing, and then you have a main block row, and then you have a sashing, and then you have a main block. You lay it out as the picture shows you, and each size in the pattern has its own layout so that you can see exactly how things go. The cornerstone, notice in our sample, is the same fabric as the large setting and the small setting triangle, and actually border 1. So then you'll sew these together by rows, and then you'll sew the rows together to create the quilt blocks in the center, and then you will add in the corner setting triangles, and then if you need to, you trim the edges, leaving a 1/4 inch seam from the sashing point, and then it all comes together beautifully. Do you like it? Yes. Do you have any questions on this? Are we excited or intimidated by the non-paper piecing technique? Excited, good answer.
I think I was intimidated at first, but now that you showed it.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to repeat that. You were intimidated at first, but now that I showed it, you're excited. Good. Yes, ma'am.
Without going through all the directions and seeing if the answer is there, it looks like you've used a number of different fabrics up there for the stars. Is that in the pattern?
Yeah, so the fabrics for the stars and for the sashing all come from your strips. So it's all scrappy. Now, if you want to be more organized, you can create the sashing segments from either 1 fabric, the star points, or from 2 fabrics. You know, but that's your quilt. Bring it in, I want to see it. But don't you love the star effect off of the cornerstones? And can you see circles? Do you see circles? Some do, some don't. As soon as you saw it, you saw circles. It's a kind of a cool technique. Would you like to see another colorway?
Yes.
Now remember, I told you there's lots of different possibilities because of all of those coordinating prints can change. So here's an example of another possibility. Now we've gone a little dark with the background. We started with light strips, dark with the background. Now do you see circles? No.
Yeah, I do. It's around the sashing.
Some say yes, some say no. So different in this quilt than in the one behind me. The background is darker, it's not lighter. So we made sure that the strips had contrast. We picked the lightest strips possible to go against that dark background. Also, our cornerstone is the same as our background fabric. In the quilt behind me, the sashing is the same as the background fabric. So now we have a different effect. It pulls the sashing out more. And then the large setting triangles are the same as the sashing in this quilt. In the other quilt, the corner setting, all the setting triangles are the same color. Looks different, huh? It's pretty. Okay. So I hope you love this because I just have always loved this pattern, and I'm excited that I was able to get it done and bring it to you this month. Do you have any questions? We have no more questions? All right, my friends, you go out and sew. Thank you for coming. We'll do it again next month. What do you say?